everybody, thanks for watching this video. The reason I'm making it is that I wanted to document something that God did in my life about 3.5 months ago that was really pretty amazing. But in order to, well, He healed me of three things in a process of about 1 minute. Three things that had been big problems for a long time. Now, these were not physical things, these were spiritual, maybe a little bit mental problems, but mostly spiritual problems. But they were big, they were pervasive, and they'd been there for years, and I thought they would never go away. I never had any inkling that they would ever go away. And He healed them in a process of 1 minute. So in order to let you understand the magnitude of this healing, I have to kind of tell you a little bit about my background. I was brought up in the 60s and 70s. I was raised Catholic, and as you often hear about that time period, we were Catholic. We went to church every Sunday. I mean, every Sunday. Even if we were on vacation or whatever, my mom scoped out where the nearest Catholic church was, and we went. And that's good. I admire her for that. It couldn't have been easy all the time, mainly because my dad wasn't into it. He was not Catholic. And anyway, the problem is that it really didn't sink in to me. And probably part of the reason for that is that my dad was not into it. I think that has a big effect on the kids and whether they takes inside or not. It didn't with me. I didn't want to go. I don't know. I just wasn't into it. But we went all the time, but we never did anything at home. I mean, nothing. We prayed before we ate, but that was it. I mean, we never did any devotions at home, never prayed the rosary, never did any of it at home. It really wasn't hardly even mentioned at home. Now, I did go to Catholic school for the first 4 years. Then they switched me to public school probably because, I know because of a teacher problem. Not sure if that was the best choice, but anyway, I went to public school after that. When I got up into high school, still didn't care about it. The thing that I dreaded the most was confession. It terrified me, unreasonably so. Didn't want to do it, didn't want anything to do with it, and got out of it as often as I could. But anyway, I continued to go. When I went off to college, of course, I didn't go, and my mom stopped making me go when I was at home. She would ask me if I wanted to go, and I'd be like, no thanks. And so I didn't go anymore. And then got ready to get married, and I was marrying a non-Catholic, and I asked about getting married in the Catholic Church because I knew it would please my mom and my grandma, but there were big complications, and my mom passed away right in the planning period of my wedding, and so very unexpectedly. So, and I kind of got pretty mad at one of the priests about some situations that happened with that. And so I just didn't want anything more to do with it, and went and got married at a Protestant church across the street. So I got married and moved across the country, and didn't go to church, didn't want anything to do with any of it for a long time. But the marriage was difficult. He was an alcoholic, and I was super codependent, so it was not a good mix, and there was a lot of problems, and I eventually was pretty unhappy, and I started looking into, one day somebody at work said, every time I bring up spiritual things, you just scoff at it. And that kind of began to eat on me a little bit, and I was like, well, I wonder why that is, and maybe I should look into some of that. So we were in Seattle at that time, which is a big area for New Age practices and that sort of thing. And so I kind of started reading a lot about that, crystals and all that junk. And I bought A Course in Miracles, which is another New Age thing. And I was reading those and kind of exploring those. And then I thought, well, I just wanted the truth. I wanted to know what the truth was. And so I thought I need to give the Bible a chance too. Maybe that's the truth. So I also got out a Bible I had there. It was a King James Bible someone had given us, and I started reading that too. So very quickly, as I was just saying, God, I never didn't believe in God. I always believed there was a God. And I said, God, if, I just want to know the truth. Lead me to whatever of these things is the truth, or whatever is the truth. And immediately I began to feel like the Bible, I just was drawn to that. This is the truth. The other stuff is not. And I dropped off that. Well, and I went through a period of for a week where I just could not sleep at all. And finally I dropped off that other stuff and I started reading the Bible more and more. And I had a friend at work who talked to me a lot about it. She was very much into it. So I started reading the Bible a lot. And I started thinking about trying to find a church. Wasn't interested in it being a Catholic church. I don't know, I just didn't really even think about that. But time went by and I just thought about going to church, but I didn't. And I ended up, got pregnant, had my son. We moved across the state to a much more, a small town, much more what I was used to. And my neighbors, my next door neighbors there went to a non-denominational church. And I just kept wanting to go, and I kept thinking, no, I can't. I don't know why. But finally I went with them. And it was, a Protestant non-denominational church. And I loved it. I just loved it. And I loved how, in the middle, he would say things like, anybody have anything to tell about what God's doing in your life? And you could stand up and tell it. And I loved, the children's church for my son. He was really little and just loved it. Met so many wonderful people that I'm still in touch with today. It was a great church. I learned so much, and I learned so much Bible study. I started a drama group there, and just was there all the time. It was just within sight of my house, and just really loved it. Great people. And but one of the adult Sunday school classes I had, the assistant pastor there one time told us he assigned us all to read one book by a saint, or about a saint. Not by a saint necessarily, but about a saint. And so I read the book about Catherine of Siena, and I really loved it. And I was really intrigued, and I started reading Catholic stuff then and never stopped. Still was going to Protestant churches, had no intention of going back to the Catholic Church, but I started reading a lot of the saints. Read stuff I really didn't understand, but some of it, but I was intrigued and I liked it. So time went on and the marriage really fell apart pretty badly. We moved back to the city, back to Seattle, and very unhappy. Things went downhill, and still going to a Protestant church. And the marriage, I kept feeling like I had to stay. I didn't believe in divorce. But finally, after 18 years of that, I felt like God was releasing me to go. So I got a divorce, and my son and I moved back to the Midwest, where I'm from and where my family all is, where we are now. And came back here, and my sister was involved in a Baptist church, so we started up there. And I was really happy there. Met really wonderful people there that I'm still friends with now. But eventually that pastor left, and it kind of broke apart as far as the group that we were attached to there. And so my sister, who moved in with me, we were just kind of didn't know where to go. And we tried several Protestant churches, got involved in one, all of a sudden really didn't care for it. And about this time, I just got to where I could not face the idea of another Protestant church with trying to, get these relationships going and trying to find, they always want you to work in the nursery or something. I just couldn't face starting over again in another church. The idea of walking into a Protestant church made me absolutely exhausted to think of, physically and mentally and emotionally and everything. Just exhausted. I couldn't do it. I don't know why, but that's the way it was. And so I quit going, really, just for quite a long time. Now, again, I'm still a Christian, still reading Christian stuff, still reading quite a bit of Catholic stuff. But I had, because of all the years that I'd spent in Protestant churches, I had a real problem with the Mary thing, typical stuff, Mary thing, the purgatory thing. Those were things that I felt were insurmountable. And the everything not being based in Scripture or in the Bible. I just had a real hard time with that, and I just thought there's no way I could ever go back to the Catholic Church because of that, because I didn't believe those things. But as time went on, I read more and more Catholic things, and I was I was talking to people on Facebook and things, and I asked one guy, I said, I told him what my beliefs were, and I said, do you think that I could go back to the Catholic Church? And he said, yeah, I think you could. He said, there's other people there that maybe have problems with certain, and he said that the Mary thing wasn't an absolute thing that you had to believe in, that you had to do. You didn't have to do that. So I thought a long time about it, and I really kind of wanted to do it, but I was afraid, and I don't know what I was afraid of. But anyway, finally, my sister and I both kind of wanted to try it. So I found out that what we had to do was go to confession and then go back. And so I did. I went to confession. I just kind of blurted out some of the main biggies, and I don't know, it was a weird situation because the priest there was very, very old, and he just didn't seem to be taking it very seriously. Every sin I'd tell him, he'd just kind of laugh and say, oh, like, whatever, that's no biggie. And that's kind of the attitude I got, but whatever. I was like, okay. So I did that. So we went back to the Catholic Church and started attending there all the time. And I really liked it, and I enjoyed it. But there were certain things that I never, I still didn't do the Mary thing, didn't really have anything to do with that. And I did not believe that it was a sin to miss church. Just didn't believe it. And I wasn't going to go to confession anymore. I was just, I did that to get in there, but I wanted nothing to do with that. So I went on there for several years like that, quite a few years. And then, about a year or maybe even 2 years before COVID, I just got to where I didn't want to go anymore. It wasn't that I seemed to have anything against the church or anything at that point. I just didn't want to go anywhere. I'd come home on the weekends. I'm tired. I work full time. I'm 62 years old, and I was tired. And on the weekends, I have sleep deprivation problems during the week, so I'm really tired on the weekends, and I just didn't want to go. At least I thought that's the reason I didn't want to go. Didn't want to go. So I missed a lot of church. And although on the one hand, I said I didn't believe that there was anything wrong with that, I knew the Catholic view of it, and it bothered me. It began to eat at me that I wasn't going, and that I knew it was not approved of. And when I would go, I'd go to communion, and now I see that, and I know that that was wrong. But I don't know. I was caught in this terrible in-between place between Protestantism and Catholicism. I used to laugh and tell people I'm a Protestant or a Catholicant or whatever. It was very uncomfortable, and I didn't think there was any resolution for it. I just didn't see ever being able to be different, because I just couldn't think my way out of it. I believed what I believed, and I thought there was no coming out of that. And it really, really became uncomfortable. I didn't like it. And yet, I didn't think there was any change, any hope for it changing. Still wasn't comfortable with the Mary things. Still didn't want to go anything to do with confession, and I didn't believe in confession. I thought, we can tell God we're sorry, and that's good enough. Still, there was enough Catholic in me for it to bother me. So I was unhappy. And then when COVID came and they said, we couldn't go to church for a while, I was kind of relieved. And I'm not proud of that, but I was kind of like, whew, now I can't go. And so, and it was one of those deals where every week, right after church time was over and I didn't go, I'd say, okay, next week I'm going to go, and I'm going to go every week from now on. It's kind of like when you're going to lose weight or something, And then when the church time would come around the next week, didn't want to go, and I wouldn't go. And it was horribly uncomfortable. I felt so guilty all the time, and yet I could not at times make myself go. Sometimes I did go, but I couldn't do it, and it was just a very uncomfortable, bad time. And I didn't really want to pray that much anymore, because every time I did, I felt guilty, and just a bad cocktail of bad. I don't know. So, and yet at the time, I didn't think it was as bad as it was. I didn't realize how miserable it was making me. And anyway, and then 3 months ago, I was, and I belong to a lot of Catholic Facebook groups and pages and things like that. And one of them, called Church Pop, I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's just kind of they just post all kinds of interesting Catholic things and factoids and prayers and just all kinds of stuff. And there was an article that came up, and I printed it off. This is the article. It says, "Pray, pray, pray, exorcist unmasks Satan's open spiritual warfare in America." Now, this is a thing I did not bring up to, and this was a big thing. I was sick with worry over this country and the way people were, as we all feel right now. It just felt like the country anyway, and mostly the world, was going crazy. Like, people are just doing things that made no sense to me, and the hatred and the deception and the politics and all of it. It just felt so scary. And all the time I had this terrible anxiety that I had to fix it. I had to pray the right prayer, or I had to post the right post, or post the right comment, or something that I could fix it and make it better, or that we could fix it and make it better. Something, I don't know. It was just this sort of non-specific anxiety, horrible anxiety about that. And I felt like I needed to fix it. Somehow it was up to me. And I knew it wasn't really up to just me, but I knew that there was something I needed to do to fix it. So that was another biggie too. So a lot of this, I've spent a lot of years in somewhat of a state of depression over these things. And it's just it kind of runs in our family anyway, so, it was depressing. So that was another issue I was dealing with. Anyway, when I read this article about exorcists unmask Satan's open spiritual warfare in America, it wasn't that special of an article. It wasn't even very long. But it went on, and it was just telling us that most of what we're seeing right now is Satan's work, and we need to be in spiritual warfare prayer about it, and to fight it, and asking us, please do this. Please pray and fight for our world and our country. By the time I finished reading that article, I had lit up like a Christmas tree. I was just immediately healed of all those problems I just told you about. I read that, and I knew that that was what God wanted me to do. I knew that spiritual warfare for our country and people and my family was exactly what God wanted me to do. I knew that I lost all anxiety about the Catholic Church. Now, one thing I didn't say is this deal of being caught on the fence between Catholicism and Protestantism. One thing that always happened is when I would see people on the internet, Protestants, talking about how evil the Catholic Church is and everything, it would give me terrible anxiety. Instead of just thinking, well, they're wrong, I was like, what if they're right? Oh my gosh, did I choose the wrong thing? What am I, a terrible, it would put me in a panic to read these things. And I'd think, what have I done? What should I do? Okay, so again, once I read this article, that was gone, completely gone. I suddenly had no problem with the Mary thing, no problem with the purgatory thing. I suddenly believed everything the Catholic Church teaches. I knew it was right. I knew that it was a mortal sin to miss church. I mean, it was just like that, gone. I can't explain it. I have prayed over the years, now and then, God, if you want me to ask Mary for intercession, if you want me to accept purgatory, you're going to have to do it in me. But frankly, I didn't believe you ever would. I just thought I was stuck there for the rest of my life and that would never go away. That was just a reality of my life. It's gone, completely gone. I love the Catholic Church. I love the teachings. I love the prayers. I love every part of it. And I have no problem believing in it. Miraculous. And also, the deal with our country at that moment, when I felt like I was being given this assignment to do spiritual warfare for the country, my fear of all that was going on with the country was gone. It was like, this is God's plan, this evil, right now, stop, it was like God was saying, stop asking why. There is no logical reason why that is going to solve this for you. What's happening is my plan. You can't fix it yourself. You can pray and you can do this spiritual warfare, and you need to take as many people with you to heaven as you can. That's all your assignment is in this right now. It's not to save the country. It's not to stop the evil from happening. This is what God's doing. My assignment is to just take as many people to heaven with me as I can, with prayer. And in all this, I absolutely love going to church. From the minute this happened, I can't wait to go to church. I go on Saturday night because, again, the sleep issue is a problem for me. So I go on Saturday night, and I can't wait now. And I mean, that just happened at the same instant. And that, maybe more than any of the rest, is just a miracle to me, because it went on for so long, and I could see I fed my faith with reading and not as much praying. I'm doing a ton of praying now, but I could see no way to think my way out of that, of not wanting to go to church. It just didn't seem to be able to overcome that. It's gone, and I just can't wait to go to church now. I love it. I love going to Mass, and I know that it's, a sin to miss Mass, and I got no problem with that now. So what happened at that point was first of all, my mind and spirit were kind of reeling. I was immediately so happy, and I'm still happy. I've calmed down a little, but I mean, for 2 weeks after that, I had a big grin across my face. And, you know, my sister asked me, what do you want for Christmas? And I'm like, I don't care. I don't need anything for Christmas. I am so happy with what God's done in my life. Nothing you could buy me for Christmas would equal that. It has been such a gift. I can't even really convey it to you how amazing it's been. It has changed everything. Everything. I don't know if everybody around me can see that it changed everything, but for me, it's changed everything. But there was only one problem. When all this happened, I was like, yes, and I can pray all this, do this spiritual warfare and everything. And then I started reading about, you know, you really need to be in a state of grace. And I'm like, I got to go to confession. Yeah. There was that confession thing. And it's another interesting story and kind of almost funny how that happened. I did go. And I'm going to have to tell you in another video what happened with that. And it's about time I need to go again. I'm not nearly as scared now, but yeah, it was interesting. That was not a welcome thought, but yeah, I'll tell you a story later. So anyway, I know this has been like way too long. So thanks for listening. I guess I'll do another video about the confession thing. Other than that, I don't know if I'll do any more videos, but thank you, Lord Jesus, for this miracle in my life. And I just wanted to tell everybody, don't give up. Keep praying for what you need in your spiritual life, especially because you never know when in 1 minute God will fix it all. And it's just amazing. Thanks for listening. Bye.